Well, so another afternoon is here. Hello there, good afternoon, and welcome to The Pulse. We are coming to you live from our studios here in Accra. You can catch us on digital terrestrial TV because we are free to air. We're also on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 144. This is Joy News, independent, fearless, and credible journalism. Coming up this afternoon on The Pulse, Spanish Embassy in Ghana sparks fresh controversy on homosexual rights in Ghana as it officially serves notice to commence the celebration of same-sex marriages within the premises of its embassy here in Ghana. We'll bring you reactions to this latest announcement. Also, Land and Natural Resources Ministry launches investigations into claims that former Chief Executive Officer of the Forestry Commission, Kojo Owusu-Afriyie, also known as Sir John, gifted part of the Achimota lands to his relatives. We'll bring you excerpts of that purported will, which is circulating on social media, and calls for a review of Ghana's policy on plastics. A coalition of NGOs in water and sanitation weighed into last weekend's downpour, which flooded most parts of the national capital. It's all coming up right here on The Pulse. I am Blessed Sogah. Don't forget that The Pulse, as always, is brought to you by Global Communities Dignilu, Affordable Safe Sanitation. This afternoon as well, we're streaming on all of our social media handles. It's at JoyNews on TV, and also join us on YouTube as well with the hashtag The Pulse. My personal handle on social media is at Blessed Sogah. Always a pleasure serving you here on The Pulse. Also this afternoon as well, we're focusing on that controversy surrounding the Achimota Forest. The Land and Natural Resources Ministry says it is investigating claims that former Chief Executive Officer of the Forestry Commission, Kojo Owusu-Afriyie, popularly referred to as Sir John, gifted lands forming part of the Achimota Forest to his relatives. A photograph of a portion of Mr. Afriyie's will went viral on social media on Sunday, revealing 3 different lands set to be situated within the Achimota Forest that has been distributed to some of his family members. This has sparked public criticism and allegations that the actual reason for government declassifying parts of the forest reserve was to make such allocations legal. The ministry says it is taking a serious view on the matter and that it will, in the coming days, or in fact, as we speak, has commenced investigations into the matter. So here it is, excerpts of that statement from the ministry for you. First of all, the ministry indicates that the attention of the Land and Natural Resources Ministry has been drawn to a document making rounds on social media, which alleges that the late former Chief Executive Officer of the Forestry Commission, Kojo Owusu-Afriyie, had included portions of the Achimota Forest in his will and giving out same to individuals who are said to be related to him. Then the statement continues to indicate that the ministry takes a serious view of the allegations and has requested for all documents relating to the lands in question as part of an initial inquiry to ascertain the veracity of the claims. Now, considering that the issues form the basis for the allegation which predate the tenure of the current Minister, Honorable Samuel Abu Jinapor, it is important that he is seized with the full facts to enable him take appropriate action if indeed there is any merit in the claims. Then it concludes by saying that the ministry assures the general public that the people of Ghana, that obviously it will ensure that the national interest is protected at all times, especially in matters pertaining to the Achimota Forest. So that's the clear indication we're getting from the ministry. However, if you're looking out for the purported will which has gone viral on social media, let's now take a look at some of the aspects of this will which is stirring the controversy on social media. We'll be bringing you details of it, details of what the former or the late Chief Executive Officer of the Forestry Commission, Sir John, purportedly will to some of his relatives. So if you're looking for some of the breakdowns, here it is for you. First of all, if you look at, for instance, page 4, it indicates that I give my land, which is situated at the Achimota Forest in the name of JK Pro Limited and measuring some 5.541 acres to the following persons. Then it lists about 5 different individuals, including Elizabeth Asari, aka mother, and we also have Michael Owusu. We have two of his sons, actually. 3. There's also a daughter in there, Ivy Free. We have Eva. Okay, and then we have Yao Amwating Free also captured on the list. So about 5 individuals in all. Part of the will which has gone viral, which many Ghanaians have been talking about. And then he's also purportedly giving portions of the land situated once more in the Achimota Forest in the name of Faso Limited, measuring some 0.987 acres, to his nephew, Michael Owusu, and also Yabwedu. And then we have Kwabena Amwating, and the very operative word there is forever. So why would the former Chief Executive of the Forestry Commission will this forest reserve, which is now degazetted, as we are getting from government, forever to some individuals? That's what's stirring the controversy. Let's hear from Edem Senano. He's with the Citizens Movement Against Corruption. They have some concerns, particularly when it comes to our asset declaration regime. They believe that this is a perfect or opportune moment for us to refine our laws and to push for more transparency in governance. Edem Senano is co-chair of the group, is joining us now. Edem, thank you for your time here on The Pulse. So let's start off from this purported will which is making rounds on social media. We are not confirming that yet, particularly as we've not heard from the family. But, well, some would say that once there's no denial from the family, it appears that this is a legitimate claim. Are you surprised by what we're finding out on social media today?
Yeah, I'm not just surprised, I'm shocked. I mean, just stunned on the back of an executive instrument that was just recently, as it were, brought into the public domain, to find that prior to this declassification of the reserve, people already laid claim to rights to sections of the forest. It's just stunning. It's just unbelievable. And it seems to me that if you find this, to the extent that it is a legitimate document we are looking at, then there's so much more we ought to be investigating. Who else is laying claim to sections of this forest? What else may have happened? And as you may know, I'm sure maybe perhaps later you refer to it, there's even a portion of a Ramsar site. I've done work in the environment, and Ramsar sites are globally significant biodiversity areas mapped out by the world that you've got to protect the flora and fauna there for the sake of humanity. And yet we find that part of this is being given out in somebody's personal will. It's just stunning.
But then beyond that, you believe, and your group believes, that this is the point where we need to reinforce our laws, particularly on the asset declaration regime. Exactly what changes are you on the lookout for?
Well, obviously, the current situation where one puts something into an envelope and it's sealed, and it's with the Auditor General, and it's not available for the public to scrutinize and say, we realize that something is missing. And it doesn't provide opportunity for people to easily do a validation when the person is exiting public office. That does not provide a mechanism to prevent people from fraudulently, as it were, acquiring assets, acquiring investments, acquiring things that are belonging to the public and to the citizens of the state. So it's not a functional mechanism we have now. Ideally, everything should be public as it is in other jurisdictions, such that one can cross-check. What did he have when he came in 2016? In how many years did he acquire how much more? What did he have by 2019 or 2020? Are there legitimate sources from which he could have acquired these, or there is no basis for him to have been able to acquire all of this? You know, we need a very transparent system that allows for accountability. That's not what we have. And I think that absolutely, if we revisit the issue of our assets declaration and make it conform with what is international best practice, we'll give ourselves a much better environment within which to be able to hold public officers accountable.
And I'm not really sure of the specifics as to whether or not you're fixated on Sir John, or perhaps we need to do that going forward, particularly when we know, and some will tell you he's deceased now, there's nothing really in this if we go after the property.
Well, it's obviously not just about Sir John. I mean, I think Sir John just, this particular episode with the documentation that's been put out just gives us a window to see what happens when you don't have an effective assets declaration regime. Countries that have managed to minimize this kind of activity, obviously, you have a system in place that allows people to cross-check. And, you know, with the competition that goes between political parties, one doesn't even have to blink your eye to know that somebody, after one government is out, is going to cross-check what did he file when he came in, what did she file, what's the state as they're going out when they did a counter-filing after exiting. Without the transparency, it's not going to happen. Patriotic-minded, spirited members of the nation who want to take this on board and ensure good governance will not have access to the information. So we really, really need to do this, not just because of this instance, even though I think that as Ghanaian citizens, we ought to be shocked. We ought to demand that this ought to be fully investigated, and anybody else who has gotten so-called rights to a forest that ought to be there as a greenbelt to protect this country, this city, let's name and shame them, and where they have to be found culpable, do so. Because obviously there will be some people alive who probably also have documents similar to this one.
And Adam, this is where many say we've not paid much attention to. I mean, the statement we're getting from the Lands and Natural Resources Ministry. I wish we could just bring back that statement from the Lands Ministry indicating the minister's resolve on what it is that they intend to do. Particularly the second point, or the very concluding points, which the minister says he's not responsible, or perhaps not entirely in his words, but all of these things that transpired did not happen when Samuel Abu Jinapor was in office. So he's indicating to us clearly, and there you have it. And let me just try and quote as well. Considering that the issues that form the basis of the allegations predates the tenure of the current minister, Honorable Samuel Abu Jinapor, MP, it is important that he is seized with the full facts to enable him take appropriate action if indeed there is any merit in the claims. For some, this is the minister running away from blame.
Yeah, in one sense it is. In another sense, yes, it is fact he's saying that some of the issues are in the past predating him. However, it is in the context that a week or two ago, we were, as it were, assailed with information from him about an instrument that is being passed, and he went at great length to try and tell us that the forest reserve is not being sold. We are only giving it back to the family that owned it because it wasn't used for its purpose. And we're wondering, what exactly are they telling us? You know,
right.
It seems to me that the minister, irrespective of the fact that this predates him, ought to have done adequate due diligence. In fact, a very in-depth scrutiny of what has transpired in that space before, as it were, coming out to defend and say that nothing is being sold. He has a responsibility to the people. So whether this event predated him or not, unfortunately, he's going to be held responsible for the fact that he brought this out and he made a statement categorically saying that these lands were not being sold. Here we are, we find documentation suggesting otherwise. He's a minister, he's in government, and it is his government, if you look at the will, because Sir John was under this government. It's not looking good at all.
So where do we go from here?
Well, I'm glad he's saying that they're investigating. I'm not quite sure the good people of this country should be waiting forever to hear from him. I think that within a week, we ought to have full disclosure. And not just that. It appears to me that we need an independent entity, probably the special prosecutor, or better still, TRAJ, digging into who else may have documentation like this saying that they have rights to acres or half an acre or whatever it is in the forest reserve. And that should lead us to take a second look at this whole issue of declassification of the Achimota Forest Reserve. Because we all know the value it has in terms of environment. We all know the accelerated reduction of our forests. So we cannot just allow this to go. I think that we need an independent
and just
inquiry.
on that point, I'd like to take your final thoughts on this. Samuel Okujetu-Ablakwa last week called for the cessation of the return of lands to so-called original owners. Should we be considering that as well?
I would align with him.
Well,
I would align with him. Actually, I mean, even in the first instance, I wasn't quite sure what does that mean. What are we saying? Wasn't that family fully compensated in the first place? What is in the best interest? In most places globally, international best practices has it that you have green belts surrounding cities, and that ensures, all the climate change issues have been dealt with. So why would we get rid of a green belt that serves several purposes? I think that I'll align with that recommendation that let's freeze this so-called declassification and return, because already it's not even a week and we are finding other documentation that tells us that there may be other reasons and interests involved in this particular effort.
Well, would have to leave it there. I'm grateful that you've been able to join us. That's Edem Senanu, co-chair of the Citizen Movement Against Corruption. Now let's talk about LGBTQ. The Spanish government has noticed the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration that it will, in the next 3 months, commence the celebration of same-sex marriages within the premises of its embassy here in Ghana. The foreign mission explains that the move is aimed at fulfilling the constitutional obligation of protecting the rights of Spaniards to marry on equal terms. So if you're wondering what the exact demands of the embassy here is in Ghana, let's break that down to you. So here's an official notice the embassy sent to the Foreign Affairs Ministry indicating that the Embassy of Spain has the honor to respectfully inform the authorities of the Republic of Ghana that in order to comply with the obligation to protect the constitutional right of Spaniards to marry on equal terms, consuls general as well as consular officers of Spain in Accra shall commence to celebrate same-sex marriages, at least between Spanish citizens once, 3 months have elapsed since the sending of this note, if no responses were to be received. So that was a clear indication that we got from the Spanish embassy, but the Ghanaian government has indeed responded, indicating what it believes to be the position of our laws on this very matter. And excerpts of that letter, correspondence back to the Embassy of Spain in Ghana, indicates that according to the note, the request is made pursuant to the national laws of Spain, which provides for same-sex marriage, and Article 24 of the Vienna Convention on Consular Relations, 1963, which allows the council to act as a civil registrar in the absence of contrary laws in the receiving state. Now, the ministry is aware that at the moment, same-sex marriages are outlawed in Ghana. However, we would appreciate your appropriate terms of a response for the benefit of the Spanish embassy. So that's a clear response coming through from the Ghanaian government. But this issue has sparked a lot of controversy on social media, particularly with those who are sponsoring this proper sexual, human and Ghanaian Family Values Bill 2021 in Parliament. One of them is Sam George, MP for Ningo Pram. He's tweeted on this matter, indicating what it is that his group will be doing, and we can bring you excerpts as well. Sam George talks about the fact that, let me just read that. Dear Spanish Embassy in Ghana, I am currently on an official assignment outside the jurisdiction. I will be addressing your letter to the Ghana Ministry of Foreign Affairs, indicating your intent to bless same-sex marriages in Ghana. Be minded that you are simply guests, and that's how he's describing them. They're guests of our country. That's the description Sam George is using. Well, some more persons have been wading into the matter. One of them is the 2020 independent vice presidential candidate, Jacob Osei-Yeboah, who's also tabled a memo before Parliament supporting the Family Values Bill 2021. So what does he make of all of the diplomatic concerns emerging on this matter? Jacob Osei-Yeboah, I'm grateful that you are joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Right, so here we are. The Spanish embassy, obviously, within its premises, will be considered to be acting in its own territory or perhaps in their own country. So what do you make of the latest notice they are sending to the government of Ghana?
First and foremost, we need to understand that within the Spanish embassy is considered as Spain. And for that matter, if they accept same-sex marriages, it can be organized within the embassy. But having said that, if Ghana, we are also against that, then what that means is that as soon as it's brought to our notice, and once they leave the embassy, and outside that embassy, those citizens could be arrested because Ghana frowns on it. And I think that, the embassy ought to be more diplomatic. And that is what I would suggest. And they've got to be quite sensitive because this is an issue that Ghanaians discuss it with high sense of passion. And we don't want a situation whereby anybody would take the law into his or her hands and act in a very negative way. And I would suggest that it's better for them to allow the bill, which is in front of Parliament, for Parliament to decide on that before they will be able to come out with such moves. And I don't think that is going to be in anybody's interest. And I would strongly suggest that they shouldn't go ahead and do that. Other than that, just as I say, outside the embassy, Ghanaians could act in any way that anybody thinks about that. Having said that, do they think that if the Ghana embassy in Spain decides to say that, okay, in Ghana, we allow polygamy, and for that matter, we will bless polygamy within the embassy of Ghana, and nothing could happen to those within the Spanish territory. And so I think that they've got to be a bit sensitive, and I think it will not augur well for them, and especially with their citizens, that they would want to go ahead and then allow them to get married.
But the concern is we need to handle this with a lot of care, particularly as we know that Ghana is also pursuing friendly relations with other nations of the world. So this is really a delicate situation here.
It's not a delicate situation. They're just saying that if you go to Rome, do what the Romans do. I mean, nobody... they should respect our passion and our emotions and our laws. You see, when you want to befriend someone, you need to respect the issues, the traditions that your friend respects. Especially if I have my father who is a drunkard. He's my father. If you want to befriend me, you've got to give my father respect, despite the fact that he's a drunkard and he doesn't make any sense to you. But because he's my father and I respect him, and because you want to befriend me, you should respect my father who's a drunkard. That is how you can befriend someone. And so I think that whoever, it doesn't matter that country, they've got to respect the laws, the rules, and regulations of Ghana if they really want to move ahead with us in any form of relationship. It should be a mutual respect.
We've seen some of the leading figures within your movement indicating that now is the time for the parliament here in Ghana to speed up the passage of the Family Values Bill. Are you then suggesting that you're going to mount more pressure for that to happen in the coming days?
Oh, yes, definitely. It's something that Parliament should have taken. You see, this is an issue that you have a whole Christian and Muslim, our traditional, everybody. You see, so the Spanish embassy should be extra careful with that. He shouldn't just come and then joke with the passions and hearts of people, because laws are made for human beings. Human beings are not made for laws. And so they've got to be extra careful with the move that they want to undertake in Ghana, so far as the LGBTQI++ is concerned. But honestly, I pity those who get themselves involved within the LGBTQ. I mean, I pity them. And sometimes I really want people to have that kind of empathy for them. And let's try to help them so that they will come back to the normality of human beings, you know. I pity them, really, yeah.
But the bill has been criticized as promoting hate homophobia, particularly against persons of LGBT persuasion.
I don't really think so. You see, when laws are made, you can't say that it's actually promoting hate. You see, the best thing is that if I love you, I have to ensure that I do whatever thing that I can for you to do the right thing in life. They're just destroying themselves. I mean, even in the U.S., they have a lot of issues handling them. Those nations, you know, with anus prolapse and all of that, people, I mean, you say, let's be honest with them. I really love them, okay, but I hate their acts. And I know that they have the power to come out of that. In the U.S., we have a lot of NGOs helping people, former adherents to this LGBTQI. You know, that is the reality on the ground, you know.
Well, we'll have to leave it here. Thank you so much for joining us. That's Jacob Osei-Aboah, independent vice presidential candidate during the 2020 presidential elections. Let's talk about flooding now. Minister for Works and Housing, Francis Assesu-Boakye, says despite the massive investment the government has been making to tackle floods in Accra, it will still persist if people don't change their attitude. Louis Asari was there and has filed this report to you.
Issues of flood have become persistent in Ghana for so many years. Government, after the floods, has pledged to do its best to save the situation, but to no avail. After a few hours of rains, many places around the capital were flooded. Vehicles and people struggled to move.
Serious pakanation yaya mobododo yaya mobo one amanfo asisi the container sisi ha emensuo kwan so
The rains are heavy these days. When you come to Kaneshi, people have blocked the access of water with containers. People have built pavement to block the rain.
Nsuo kwan no kwanya bebi nya de emfa wo one na containers wo na nsuo be room sika wakoji loan na wo no nyina say
Mrs. Akofani, 100 million, so for problem.
My sister has gone for items over 1 million Ghana cedis. The rain has spoiled everything. They have to provide gutters for us here.
Minister for Works and Housing, Francis Assesu-Boakye, has been touring parts of Accra. According to him, government is working with the World Bank to secure funding of $200 million to implement certain interventions.
Haphazard development of our communities. Whenever you are supposed to build, you have to go and request for a building permit from the district assembly. But most people don't do that. They just build anywhere they like. But it's the responsibility of the district assembly to make sure that they issue permits, and whenever permits are not issued, they should be decisive and pull down any structure. In 1960, and they also experienced some sort of flooding at the time. That means that it's been with us for some time, and it means that we know the problem. President Akufo-Addo, during his time, the last 5 years has invested 450 million in the construction of drains alone from the national budget. It was caused by the flooding situation in the Odoro, and as a result, government is working with the World Bank. Government secured funding of $200 million to implement certain interventions within the Odoro basin. These interventions include expansion of covers and drains, widening and deepening of drains. It involves construction of detention ponds. I'm very confident that once that project is finished, it will solve the issue of flooding within the Odo channel.
The municipal chief executive, Mordecai Kwashi, says demolishing unauthorized structures would help prevent floods in Accra.
The demolition on the managed junction. So we have postponed it slightly, but we will take them on. By between Monday and Wednesday, we should be able to do something. Removing the structures that are close to the waterway or in the waterway. But ultimately, the channels have to be expanded and they have to be adequately dredged. That is why we were appealing to the Honorable Minister that on their side, if they could do that for us, we will make sure that we clear all unauthorized structures that are in the waterway. We have informed them and then we will clear. That I can assure you.
Operations Officer for ASDA, Benjamin Ewusi, believes that the authorities must put in place a strong waste management system to prevent the problem of choked drains and perennial flooding.
Our part as contractors, we have to keep on cleaning, the lagoon. And as I also put it, the authorities must institute or put up a strong waste management system so people will stop dumping into the drain. We have to educate the citizenry, the public, about indiscriminate dumping of refuse into the drain. And on our part, we keep on dredging, cleaning the drain. And on their part, they have to stop dumping into it. When we dredge and you keep on dumping, so we are going to, square one.
Over 30 drainage basins are being worked on here in Accra. Lois Asara's report for JoyNews.
Well, so let's have a conversation on this. The Coalition of NGOs in Water and Sanitation have a concern with this. Patrick Apoya is the Executive Secretary of the group. They believe it's time for us to relook at our policy on plastics. So, Patrick, welcome to the Pulse. Let's start off from the concerns you're raising on solid waste. Why is it so difficult for our authorities to simply bring up a policy that will bring a sustainable solution to what we're dealing with? Patrick, if you can hear me, I'm asking about the sustainable solution that you're talking about, the need to pass policy measures that would deal
good afternoon.
with... Yes.
Yes, we listen to all the... Yes, thank you very much for the opportunity. For the Coalition of NGOs on Water and Sanitation, we do agree fully with the first two speakers. First and foremost, the country must be very serious about dealing with our town and country plans, areas that are clearly developed. But because of the scarcity of land in Accra, anywhere somebody sees any piece of land that is sold to them, they don't care whether it is a planned area or not. I think city authorities need to put their feet down and support the enforcement agencies to do their best. We also support the position of the waste management companies. Currently, you will not believe that only 33 or at best 40% of households actually subscribe to a waste management service. The rest of them either give it to the Aboboya, or there's a new emerging concept they call Kaya Bola, where people just carry baskets and pick the waste. Wherever they end, we don't know. Clearly, some of them will just go and dump them by the roadside, and they will end up in the gutters. Already our gutters, the sizes are already not adequate. The sizes are not adequate enough to contain the volume of water that cashes through the Odo Basin during flooding. On top of that, solid waste, 90% of which is plastic, will take up to 3/4 of the already limited capacity of the drains. And anywhere you pass, because of poor waste management, poor attitude of people, you have a lot of contamination, a lot of choking of the gutters. We believe that the starting point is getting rid of plastics. The one-use plastics, those that you just use once and you throw away. The country must be bold enough to tackle that properly. There are two ways
so where do we start from?
The first one is an outright ban on plastics. Then those ones that we use to bottle water, that we call PETs. There's a policy called the extended producer responsibility, which means if you use, you still have a responsibility for paying a tax on it to be managed.
Yes, Patrick, you were making a point about the first place or point where we could start from.
And that is the way every country that is serious about waste management, backed by outright, that's for us, an outright ban on the one-use plastic.
It appears that...
and then...
Well, Patrick, we keep losing you intermittently. Probably we'll try raising you on phone so we can have a much more clearer lines. But CONEWAS has been indicating the need for government to review the policy on solid waste, particularly plastics here in the national capital, and not just the national capital, but across the country when it comes to managing waste in order to deal with this concern about flooding. So, Patrick, we lost you there, but briefly, we're asking about the starting point. Where's the right point for government to start on?
The right point for government is to place an outright ban on the one-use plastics. One-use plastics are those ones that when you buy and you send them home, you can't use them again. They are thrown away. The black sacks, the polythenes that we use as carrier bags, these are the one-use plastics. Government should take a bold step to ban them. The second one is to implement the extended producer responsibility on all plastics, which means that even if the plastic leaves your shop and it is found in the drain, you will still have a responsibility for paying a tax on it to be managed. So that when your drink leaves your factory, then it is also of interest to you to ensure that that drink bottle doesn't get its way back to the drain. If I say that if I pick an empty bottle in a gutter, this is the price that you're going to pay on each one. And the whole day, I think people will busy themselves getting these plastics up. These are the two things that we recommend as far as the plastic aspect is concerned.
Yeah. So why not laying emphasis? Why not laying emphasis on recycling, for instance?
No, we have all, the recyclable parts is what we are saying they should not touch. These ones that I'm talking about, they are clearly the unrecyclable parts. The unrecyclable means the recyclers don't want them. That's why in the first place they even find themselves in the gutter. For the pure water section, it will, apart from those that are, it is very difficult for you to see them thrown away at the household level because people need them for recycling. So yes, those ones can be recycled. Right now, only 3% of the plastics are being recycled. Of the tons and tons of over the 1 million tons that we use in this country or use in this country every year, only 3% is being recycled. Recycling is a very interesting song that you sing for people's ears to look nice, but it is not something that is practically feasible for all forms of plastic. Even the PET that I'm talking about, the one to bottle water, right now the demand for it for recycling is low. Because people think it is cheaper to use virgin material to make their plastic than to recycle it. The cheapest recycling machine to recycle that kind of thing is over $1 million. Which entrepreneur in Ghana is willing to invest $1 million to recycle those kind of plastics? So the ban is actually targeting those segments of the plastics that are not recyclable or not attractive to recyclers now. Then for those that are being recycled, like the HDPE, which I didn't mention, those ones people are recycling, yes. And sometimes you can use them over and over again. Let that also go on. You cannot just say recycle and then it covers all plastics. No. For the good ones, you can't see a single one in the gutter. For the bad ones, 90% of them are in the gutter.
So is it the suggestion of CONEWAS that once we deal with plastics and particularly solid waste, then we're halfway through solving our perennial flooding problem here in Accra?
Yes, the position of CONEWAS is to, first and foremost, government has a responsibility to invest in adequate drainage in this country. The drainage infrastructure that exists, even within the Odo Basin, which comprise about 17 of the municipalities within the Greater Accra metropolitan area, are just simply inadequate. I know the Garrick project, the Greater Accra Integrated Resilience and Development Project, is aiming at, they are investing heavily in that aspect of the project, that is the infrastructure. And we are hoping about the next 3, 4, 5 years, when they have actually finished putting all the infrastructure in place,
the infrastructure problem would have been minimal. It is now left with the maintenance. And the maintenance is the choking, how often we distill. The starting point is to prevent it from being choked. Somebody says we should do closed drains. But the closed drains, that's another discussion we can have later on. But as far as maintenance...
It appears that we've lost Patrick Poya there, but his point is made. The call for, of course, authorities to act on our plastic waste. We'll come back to that subject later on, but let's talk security now. The National Security says its study of terrorist attacks in the sub-region reveal extremists are exploiting ethnic and religious conflict as well as anti-government sentiments. The sub-region has become a hotbed for terrorism, as out of 305 terrorist attacks recorded globally, 49 was witnessed in the region. Information Minister Kojo Nkrumah says intelligence picked up by the country's national security apparatus reveal the active involvement of some Ghanaians in terrorist attacks in the Sahel region. According to him, it has become necessary to take steps to educate citizens on security because of a possible recruitment of Ghanaians by extremist groups for their terrorist activities. He's been addressing the press in Accra.
Increasingly, intelligence reports suggest that some Ghanaians have been involved in terrorist attacks in the Sahelian region. What this signals is that there has been the possible recruitment of Ghanaians by some of these terrorist groups in the West African sub-region. The Ministry of National Security has authorized an increased level of awareness among the intelligence community and seeks to deepen engagement with the Ghanaian public in line with contemporary security practices. You know, in times past, they say if it's security, don't talk about it. But in line with contemporary security practices, one of the best things is to talk about it and to get everybody on board. We are therefore at this point specifically drawing the attention of persons in the Ghanaian jurisdiction to be more observant and vigilant about our security ecosystem and to draw the attention of the police, other security agencies, and local community leaders immediately they observe anything out of the ordinary. Of particular interest are non-residents seen mobilizing youth or circulating extremist material in person or virtually with the objective of whipping up sentiments to attack people or public installations. Additionally, we're encouraging persons in the Ghanaian jurisdiction to observe and be on the lookout for abandoned or suspicious packages in public places for quick attention of security persons. In the coming days, we'll also be rolling out a full campaign aimed at mobilizing and providing persons in the Ghanaian jurisdiction with more security education.
Well, earlier today, we stepped out to check the views of Ghanaians on this campaign that's about to be launched by government, educating them on the imminent terror attack.
First of all, I have to take cover. I have to take cover first. I have to protect myself first. If there's a terrorist attack and they are using gun, and there is a first shot, first you have to go down. You don't stand up because when you are up, you can easily be hit by a strange bullet. So that's what I will do first. And the next thing I will do is to be able to make a call, to call the police or any other body that I think is can help take care of the situation.
Number one, they are Johnny. My Johnny, copy baby acte. And son, say Yamia Domi Kita Smart.
First, I would run away. Then I'll try and recall the incident with my phone and share to call for support.
Sana Mayano. First, Minjina Ho. Messumet America, a premium Kwanza. And
I will run away. I will go and hide till everything is over. We are just hearing this alert. We do not know what to do. As a trader, I won't know if any customer has any weapon or bad intention.
It's yes, Rabbi say, Omo, Sankrofo, Omo Yamubai. No, she's Sankrofo, no, so meet me also, Momusomu.
This hasn't happened before. And so we are not sure what we will do if it does happen.
Well, joining us now is security analyst and consultant Richardkumar. Thank you, sir, for your time. So government is about to scale up in the next 24 hours public education on this intelligence report of an imminent terror attack. What do you prefer government does about the education? Telling people where to hide or perhaps what to do in these trying times?
No, I think it's part of the general education drive that government is alerting the citizenry. The more educated we are in the area we are talking about, the better it is for everyone. And so I am happy and I'm glad government has taken the initiative to provide education to the general public in Ghana. What we can also do as individuals is to help in that particular direction. And that is what we'll be doing since then. What next is that our security agencies must collaborate more and be red alert to curtail any terrorist attack or to minimize the effect of it. So we are on the same path.
There's a question about where to target in terms of the education.
It's also one of the problems because government has not, or national security has not indicated which types of terrorists are attacking us and why has Ghana become very attractive to terrorists to attack us. And so we are providing general education, except when people ask for details, specific details. Having said that, the threat must be rare, but the way government is going about it on national security is being evasive with the information. That is also creating another problem. And that left everybody in the hook as to when are we going to be attacked, where is the attack coming from, which group of terrorists are attacking us, what is the ideology, what should we look out for and what should we not look out for. It's a little bit of a problem. Having said that, we just have to go ahead and continue educating our people until we get to a level playing field where we can be sure that we are boldly informed about what terrorism is. And blessed, it will also surprise you to know that there's a difference between subversion and terrorism. What government is talking about, it looks to me more like subversion. Some people are taking advantage of external shocks to connive with certain people within Ghana to create problems for the state. But it doesn't look more like people are, carrying out themselves to attack us in a manner of a terrorism. Having said that, I'm also not naive not to believe that the threat of terrorism is predominantly across the West Africa zone. And every nation, particularly Ghana, will need to be prepared ahead of time.
But how about retooling the security agencies as well?
Now, I think it's a predominant part that government must take seriously. It's a predominant point you have made, which is profound, that government must look at it carefully. And we live in a system where people can use the state against the state, or people can sponsor terrorism against the state. And that is also an area where the state itself must take critical look at what they are doing around within their security agencies and be able to address some critical issues that might crop up in the course of this line.
The Vice President, as we understand, will be leading the charge. Is that influential enough?
Say that one again.
The Vice President, as we understand, will be leading the public education charge.
No, I have a problem when politicians take charge. That is why they are misquoting many things. That is why they are mismessaging many of the things we are hearing since yesterday or 3 days ago. I have a problem when politicians lead such a sensitive issue. It should be left out for the security agencies to take care of. And they are better informed. They are better equipped to bring out everybody on board. Once you leave it to politicians, it will become like the Galamsey issue. It will divide us straight in the middle, NDC, NPP, and will not go anywhere. And the danger is that the element of surprise is what we are fighting to prevail.
Well, Richardkumar, I'm grateful for your time. Well, and thanks for staying with us here on The Pulse. When we return, we'll talk about obstetric fistula. It's a condition that you need to learn about. We'll break it down for you here on The Pulse. Please stay. And you're welcome back to The Pulse. Now, today is International Day to End Obstetric Fistula. If you don't know about the situation, don't worry. We'll have an expert from the Ghana Health Service to help us break it down for you. Just a little information, though. It is a hole in the birth canal caused by prolonged or obstructed labor in the absence of timely emergency cesarean section, which leaves women to leak urine and fecal matter. So before our conversation, here's Justice Beidu's feature looking at the health complication. Viewer discretion is advised.
Inside the local hospital in Boko, a cesarean session on a woman in desperate need. This hospital is located in one of the poorest parts of Ghana. A few years ago, such a surgery could not have been done here because the human resource and infrastructure to do it could not be found in such a remote location. Now, this is possible in faraway Boko, on the northeastern tip of Ghana's border with Burkina Faso. It goes to show how far the country's healthcare delivery has come. Dr. Clement Opon, an example of a dedicated health workforce offering his expertise where many his like would hardly go. Here, he makes more than 3 surgeries every day.
There are about 3 districts surrounding this municipality that does not have hospitals. So this serves as the main referral point for all maternal cases from these 3 regions. And sometimes we also get cases from the Boko West district, which is the Zebila area. So this is the main referral center for the communities or the district on the eastern parts of the Upper East region. We get a lot of referrals from these areas, and we are trying our best to cope with the pressure that comes with us. So that we don't have adequate hands on the ground. The doctors are very few because most of the doctors don't accept postings here. So Upper East has a high population of teenage pregnancies. Okay, I think somewhere in the other parts of the country, teenage pregnancies is seen like a child who has gone to do something. But here, these are married, wedded young girls who require babies. Okay, in my consulting room, I treat patients who are as young as 17, 18, and are still treating infertility, looking for babies. And once these patients are very young and they are carrying babies, labor and delivery is likely to be difficult. Normally, the patient we want to call them fistula survivors because there are 2 categories of people who suffer from delayed delivery. The first group die, and those who survive are those who actually get the fistula. So we normally tell them that they are fistula survivors. We are increasingly seeing increasing numbers of fistula cases when we started this. The unfortunate thing about fistula cases is that you don't expect the fistula patients to pick his bag and come to hospital. They will not do so because of the stigma attached to the disease, because they are leaking urine, they are leaking feces, they are smelling. Their social life is lost. They cannot go to church, they cannot go to the mosque, they cannot go to the market. They can't even join public transport with the purpose of coming to hospital.
This region already has one of the worst records of maternal mortality. Birth rates are high, many unsupervised. And for some of the women lucky to deliver alive, complications like obstetric fistula occur. At the OPD, some of the women who live with the horrors of fistula have come for their routine checkup. Hawa Halidu, married at 13. Zainabu Abdullahi, married at 14. Shehu Lar, married at 15. And the list goes on and on. They are comforted by Cynthia Sinawisi, herself a survivor of fistula, helping other victims to come out.
I lived with it for 2 years, 2 months.
Tell me how it was like for you.
It was like hell. One, you can't sleep well in the night. You can't sleep well. Because when you sleep, you by all means be wet. You have to get up and change. You can't go anywhere. You can't mix. You can't be with your friends and a whole lot.
Well, such a chilling account there, but imagine that there are 13,000 of these kind of cases across the country. That's according to a recent report by UNFPA. So how do we deal with this? Joining us now is obstetrician, gynecologist and fistula surgeon at the Kolubu Teaching Hospital, Dr. Gabriel Ganyaglo. He is also a member of the Fistula Task Force team. Thank you, Doc, for your time. So we've seen the problem as highlighted in that documentary by my colleague Justice Bedo. What's the situation now as we speak? Would you say that the trend is gradually going down?
Thank you very much for the opportunity and good afternoon to your viewers. Indeed, it is very difficult to say that the situation is letting up or reducing. As you can see from that clip with Dr. Clement Opong in Boko, the circumstances causing fistula have not changed much. There's still very childhood marriages still continue. People are married off in some cultures in their teens. Access to emergency obstetric services is still challenging in some communities. Road networks are not motorable all year round in some places. And so, yes, the circumstances causing fistula have largely remained unchanged. So it's very difficult to say that the situation is improving. We still estimate that we have about 1,300 new cases occurring every year. The number living with fistula, unfortunately, we do not know because, like you mentioned rightly, the patients don't walk into the hospitals for you to count them as cases. So we still think that we have a significant number of people living with obstetric fistula in Ghana.
And the point is, what's the major factor accounting for this? Some reports have pointed to poverty as one critical factor, which is making, for instance, treatment of the case itself a difficulty for many more women in Ghana.
You are spot on. It tends to be more prevalent in the very poor areas of the country, and rural areas in particular are vulnerable to fistula. Sometimes it is for the very simple reason of money for transportation to go to hospital when labor begins. So in the very poor areas, the woman cannot find the money to even come to that natal clinic during the pregnancy, and they have no clue. I would say that the major cause is the lack of education among our communities and the rural folks. They do not know what causes fistula. They do not understand that when labor becomes prolonged and is obstructed, the fistula becomes a natural outcome if the woman doesn't die. So whilst the labor is obstructed, they attribute it to ancestral spirits. They attribute it to infidelity on the part of the woman. They simply do not understand that it's probably because the baby came in too soon when the woman was actually still growing and hadn't finished growing. They do not appreciate that some babies do not turn the way they should turn normally for the babies to come out. Some of them will go and deliver with the birth attendant or the oldest woman in the community. Also because they may be worried about what they will eat if they come to deliver in the hospital. So it's education, number one, and I think it's the lack of information to our rural folks and the lack of understanding of what really causes fistula, because 9 out of 10 fistulas in Ghana are caused by prolonged obstructed labor.
And Doc, let's be fair. Let's not assume that even those within the urbanized areas have a full appreciation of what the condition itself is. So this is perhaps a good time for you to educate us on this. When you talk about fistula, obstetric fistula, what's the condition about and how complicated can it get?
Yeah, when it comes to fistula, we define 3 parameters: the passenger, who is the baby, the power, which is the uterine contraction, and the passage, which is the birth canal. All 3 must be in normal relationship for the baby to come out normally. So if it turns out that the passage is smaller than the passenger, in other words, the woman hasn't finished growing and the pelvis is small, and the baby is big, then that baby naturally cannot come through the birth canal. So it will get stuck at the point. When that happens, it's important to have an emergency cesarean section to remove the baby. So that is where all the problems with fistula begin, because when the labor is obstructed, in many places, some of the women are delivering in spiritual homes. There's no concept of it will not come, so let's go to hospital. The understanding is that the gods have not permitted the passage yet. So they keep doing all sorts of things. And that is fundamentally what causes fistula. So even if you live in Accra and the baby is bigger than the birth canal can accommodate and it's stuck, and you don't get access to emergency cesarean section in a timely fashion, then it is likely you'll be in Accra and still develop fistula. So yes, your point is spot on.
And the concern now is about the solution. Some say we need policy intervention. I mean, how adequate is that within the public sector? Are there some interventions, some subventions from government that, of course, public hospitals receive, which would make it easier for persons suffering this condition to get help?
Yes, I think prevention is the key, and it comes at various levels. You mentioned policy intervention, that would be at probably the government level. But as the theme for this year says, invest in quality healthcare, empower communities, meaning that we have to make sure that our communities are educated on good antenatal or the requirements of antenatal care, and they must be delivered by a skilled birth attendant. If you leave out the community, if they manage to get into the hospital, we have the infrastructure that is ready and the necessary manpower to deliver a safe emergency cesarean section in a timely fashion. That is the focus of the theme for this year. Invest in quality healthcare, empower communities. And these 2 parameters, once they are addressed, is likely to prevent obstetric fistula from occurring, and we will be able then to manage to look after those who are already having fistula. For those already with fistula, treatment is available, mainly surgical. There are surgeons around the country, there are surgeons in regional hospitals that can do the fistula repairs. Unfortunately, due to stigma, due to order of the patients and the lack of the necessary resources, we are unable to bring patients suffering from fistula to health centers for the needed surgical repair. And yet, when some get to the hospitals in the obstructed labor state, there are still delays in the health facilities. So the theme for this year is calling on all of us to invest in quality healthcare and empower the communities. If the traditional leader understands that marrying the girls too soon will lead to fistula, he may be forced to take another look and put the girls in the classroom instead. If they understand that delivering at home is unsafe, they may rather want to deliver in a hospital. And if they know that the journey to the hospital in the time of labor is treacherous and they will not have the resources to go, they may start saving during the first months of the pregnancy. So everybody's responsibility to help us to and eliminate.
And it's gratifying to know that you're doing the public education now, but I mean, we need to face it, we're still in that digital age, which means that some may be getting their information from social media, which entirely may not be accurate. So if there's something that women have to disabuse their minds on this condition, what will that be?
Well, it is to encourage all women to understand that it is not the fault of the patient that she has fistula. Many blame the patient, and so they shun the patient. We should understand that despite the smell of urine and feces when these women are leaking, they need help. They need our support. They need our empathy. So please, let's not just worsen their situation because they're already suffering mentally and then they don't have the money. So please, let's all understand that it's not a fault of the women. It's a failure of the healthcare system, if we have to put it that way. So let's all lend our shoulders to the wheel. And please, let's understand that obstructed labor is what causes fistula and not ancestral spirits, and it's not a curse. I'm
grateful, Dr. Ganyaglo. Thank you for joining us here on The Pulse. Well, the story of the visually impaired veteran actor cut off from power supply is obviously one issue that's on our focus here on The Pulse. When we return, of course, we'll talk all about that. Please stay. We'll return shortly. And you're welcome back. Now, the story of the visually impaired veteran actor cut off from power supply for over 5 years, for many years, William Addo, dazzled on our screens with his exquisite acting skills. It brought him to fame and acclaim, but all that fizzled out when he suddenly became visually impaired. He moved out of the limelight into obscurity in his hometown, Tefle. Well, his woes worsened when the Electricity Company of Ghana cut him off the national grid because of outstanding debt. In an interview, he explained he has been living in the dark for over 5 years.
Grandma will say from the way. I mean, even when you were strong on your 2 feet and going about and, knocking on doors that could open, but nobody cares. When Bakma interviewed me and wrote the story on me, I made a passionate appeal to the president of the land to come to my aid and things like that. Nobody has ever, since that time. So please, all I need is that electricity be restored to me here. Because what happened was that there was a time that they said they were changing meters and things like that. They were introducing some new meters. And then it went, when they changed it, for nearly a year or two, no bill was coming for us to know. Then all of a sudden, the bill that came was about close to 5,000 cedis.
Well, now, female empowerment remains one of the topical issues on the train of public discourse, with many stakeholders calling for women to be brought at par with their male counterparts in all spheres of endeavor. Well, a flame of hope was lit on Saturday when the Webster University here in Ghana, where the majority of its graduates at the 9th commencement were female. The delighted female graduates shared their joy with JoyNews team and expressed their readiness for life after school. Tasha Michelle was there and now reports.
The numbers at the 2022 graduation ceremony of the Webster University here in Ghana revealed that indeed the efforts to increase the enrollment of girls is seeing a steady progress. At the event, it was all smiles for graduates, management, family, and friends of the graduates. The overall best graduating graduate student, Abigail Owusu, and the overall best graduating undergraduate student, Olivia Klesen, shared their excitement with JoyNews.
It's so awesome. I think it's such an honor, and I'm so grateful to have been nominated for the position of valedictorian.
I feel very proud, I would say, and I'm also very glad I followed my gut, telling me you should actually go and study in Ghana.
Speaking after the ceremony, the Chief Executive Officer of Vodafone Ghana, Patricia Obonai, stressed the need for women to be supported to realize their goals.
It's a delight to see so many women graduating today. I've always said that women are 50% of the population of Ghana. And so when you see them pursuing their careers, pursuing their education, wanting to contribute to society, I think it's phenomenal and they should be supported.
The academic director, Dr. Linda Day, also explained why there are more females graduating from the university this year.
Today, with our graduating, might seem that we have more women than men, but I don't think that is deliberate or intentional. It's just the approach that we take in delivering the learning experience, and perhaps women take, as women we are communicators, aren't we? We are doers, and so if we're learning through doing, then no wonder we have so many graduates who are women today. But also for all our graduates, I think it's a fantastic experience for them to understand the relevance of what they are learning.
Touching on the activities of the school during the period under review, the Dean of the George Herbert Walker School of Business and Technology, Dr. Simon Cummins, noted that despite the onslaught of the COVID-19 pandemic, the school's academic calendar was not disrupted.
We're already prepared to offer classes by Zoom. So we had been offering this format for the past 5 years or so, what we call our WebNet Plus format, in which we offer students the opportunity to take classes by Zoom. So when the pandemic hit, we were able to transfer all of those students over to Zoom format very, very easily, and it worked well for us.
A graduate, Joshua Fifi Asante, who also doubles as a worker, explained how he navigated the cumbersome task of combining his lessons with his economic engagements.
The website experience has been an amazing one, given that with graduate students, you have a lot of working class students, so combining work and academia and school has not been an easy one, but by grace we've been able to come this far, and I'm excited about the new possibilities that a Webster education offers every Webster student.
Education, they say, is the key to success, and with more people having access to same, especially the girl child, there is no telling how far society will be transformed. Tasha Michelle, JoyNews.
And now it's difficult to make ends meet on a low salary when the prices of products and services are skyrocketing. The situation gets worse when payment becomes late. Unfortunately, this is the reality for some national service personnel whose salary has been in arrears for more than 3 months. The personnel say the delay is affecting their living standards as they struggle to make ends meet. Therefore, Aprikua Boafo visited some of them and came through with this report.
Pay water bill and light bill as well, plus what I will eat. At the same time, looking at the increase of transport, moving from my place to where I work, calculating it with my food and order a day, I spend close to about 50 to 60 Ghana cedis.
Meet Evans, a national service personnel living on monthly allowance of 559 cedis. According to him, he has not been paid for 3 months. He describes the situation as devastating as he struggles to survive.
You are not being paid on time, and at the end of the day, they are not increasing it. Looking at the current economic crisis that we are in, so we really suffer a lot. They are owing us like 3 months arrears, and they just paid only 1 month.
To make ends meet, Evans says he's taking a side job.
So because of what is happening currently, I decided to find time and do part-time job because the money that we receive is like hand to mouth. Recently, I just decided to venture into teaching and all that so that I can get extra money to add to the 559.
Evans isn't alone. There is also Priscilla. She's on strike as a result of the delayed payment of her salary.
I'm on strike.
Who organized the strike?
It's on WhatsApp. I don't know. It's a group we all planned. I'm just watching TV, just waiting for the government to pay us. Then we'll see what happens.
Unlike Evans, however, Priscilla depends on her family for support.
Sometimes you look as if you are just trying to behave like you are taking something small, but you are behaving like you don't have anything. When I call my mother like this, she'll be like, me, I'm lying. She knows they've paid me. I'll be like, no, they haven't paid me. She doesn't believe me. Yeah, but sometimes they do help one way or the other.
She says, although her salary is not enough, timely payment will better her living condition.
At least if they were to pay it on time, it would have helped in one way or the other. But they'll wait. Sometimes I haven't received my salary, I think 4 months now, which is really affecting me. So if it was to be paid on time, it would have helped. It's not really that much, but it would have helped one way or the other.
It's unclear when she will return to work. Evans and Priscilla have a common plea. They want their salaries paid on time and also increased to meet the rising cost of living. On the other hand, some national service personnel have indicated they will soon hit the streets to demonstrate about the delayed payments. Ifwa Aprikua Boafo's report read to you.
Well, the NSS is not only in focus, also the beneficiaries of the Nation Builders Corps, NAPCO, are equally lamenting the delay in payments of arrears, which span some 7 months. Of course, they are bearing the brunt for it, and the group says it may be forced to join a protest in the coming days if government fails to act. Let's speak to Frank Kwanzaa now, General Secretary of the group. They've issued a statement to that effect. Frank, thank you for joining us here on The Pulse. So let's start off from the demands. In fact, this is not new. Some months back, there was a demonstration right here in Accra asking for the payments to be released. Are you saying that nothing has changed ever since? Frank, it appears that we're having some challenges with your audio. If you could just unmute for me so I get the point that you're making. I'm trying to find out, ever since the last time you made the demands, of course, which led to the demonstrations which we've seen on the principal streets of Accra, are you then suggesting that nothing has been done ever since? Is that the claim you're putting out there? Frank, let's try on one time. Frank, can you hear me? Okay, so Frank is on phone now. Let's see if that will be better. Frank, you were making the claim about how nothing has changed ever since the last demonstration that was held in Accra. Tell us about it.
Yes, thank you so much for giving this opportunity to avail our sentiments to the general public and the government as a whole. The issue here is on the 17th of February, we demonstrated against the government, and there was the perception that government will come to our aid and clear all arrears and also mechanize us as the president promised. But up to now, the president have not, mechanized us, and also our arrears have not been paid, and we are really perishing in extreme hunger and privation.
What are you going to do now?
Yeah, for now, we are still calling the government to clear all the arrears and also mechanize us as they said. If not, on the 4th of June, we shall join the country to demonstrate against the government.
But is this the case for all of your members, or perhaps this is just in some selected parts of the country?
Come again, please.
Is this a situation that cuts across all the regions?
It cuts across. All NAPCO trainees have not been paid for the past 7 months.
And you are sure about that? Because some of your colleagues are not complaining as you are doing now.
No, they've not paid us from on the 15th of October. And the government issued a letter that all NAPCO trainees should go back to work. And as I speak to you now, you have not been paid. And you are all suffering, you are crying. And we are still calling the government to pay the arrears, or else we join the country to demonstrate.
How are you making up in these trying times? Prices are skyrocketing, which means that obviously you'd have to find money elsewhere to go to work if indeed you have to.
Come again, please.
Yes, so I'm asking how you are making up for this shortfall, the non-payment of the salaries. As we know, prices are rising by the day, which means that it's piling more and more pressure on your group. So how are you coping in these trying times?
We are really suffering. Honestly speaking, we are really, really suffering. Some NAPCO trainees are dying. Some are, frustrated.
Some of your members are dying?
Yes, please. Some were admitted at the hospital and they have no money for the cure. They need to pay for hospital bills and others. For the past 7 months, over 10 NAPCO trainees have died out of hunger and privation.
I mean, well, Frank, let's be honest here. How sure are you about the claims you're making?
Yes,
are you not exaggerating matters?
I have the evidence that shows these NAPCO trainees died out of unpaid arrears or allowances because that is what they feed on. There is no money. Some were admitted at the hospital and they have no money for better treatment, and they died.
Well, very interesting points there. But the point is, if you look at what directives it is that we saw from government after the expiration of your contract, it appears that government indeed will need some time to redress, fix you in the system properly. Could that not be a factor accounting for the delay?
Sir, please, for the 7 good months, what preparation are you do that you are not done? 7 good months. Always prepare. Always there's a preparation ongoing. We should exercise patience. For 7 good months, have not been paid. Look at the persistent rise of goods and services in the country. Even those with money, they are suffering. How much alone those without money? In fact, we are really suffering. Honestly speaking, things are not going on well for NAPCO trainees.
The last time, all attempts to reach out to your management was not successful, at least from our side. Have you been able to speak to management of NAPCO and what assurances are they giving?
We demonstrated and we petitioned the Secretariat. So we're expecting that the Secretariat at least will respond to us. And up to now, they've not responded. The only response was from our CEO saying that the way we have been demonstrating, it might affect any future opportunities which will be given to NAPCO trainees. Meaning he's trying to, scare us.
You feel intimidated by management of NAPCO?
Yes, please. Saying we shouldn't go on demonstration and other stuff. It may affect any future opportunities the government have for NAPCO trainees.
So beyond the demonstration, how else do you intend to go after your money? This is something you are entitled to. Would you contemplate going to court if the demonstration fails?
Yes, that is what we are also planning. That's what the executives are planning of going to court. Because the government gave an assurance, issued a letter that we should go back to work on the 15th. So we are still in the process of, if any demonstration fails, then we take the matter to the court.
And I'm sure that you've been speaking to some of your colleagues ever since, of course, the money has been delaying and you're not hearing anything from management. What sense are you getting from them generally on how they feel?
Getting numerous of calls from these trainees. In fact, we are suffering. And we have nobody to contact. We have written numerous of letters to the NAPCO Secretariat, but no response. We've tried our best. So on the 4th of, if our arrears are not cleared by the 4th of June, we shall join the face of the country to demonstrate against the government.
Okay.
Honestly speaking, we are really suffering.
Frank will say about that. Thank you for joining us. He's the Secretary for the aggrieved NAPCO beneficiaries. Well, here we go. It was to be a walk in the park for them as they attempted to redeem their battered image from the 2021 edition, where they lost 2 times to their regional rivals, Prempeh College, once in the grand finale of the Ashanti Regional Championship and the semi-finals of the National Championship. This image recovery journey for Opoku School was almost derailed, but for a 2-point gap that separated the 2-time champions and Sims SHS. For now, a spot in the semis of the regional championship is secured for them.
And so this is the unmistakable Imanus chant by the boys from Opoku Ware. Well, they've had such a close shave. They were almost kicked out by Sims SHS. but for what you call experience and composure, they might have already been out of the Ashanti Regional Championship 2022. But that's just history. What's here is that they are in and they're in the semi-finals.
That's cool. That's cool.
How are you feeling when you're entering the final round?
Yeah, it was a very good contest. It was tense because we got some wrong. So the adrenaline started coming in. When we answered the first riddle, then I got confidence that we will win because we are very good at these things. It happened to us last year against Impress. So with the experience, as you just said, we were able to overcome all these troubles. That's why we are in the next stage, the semi-finals of the region.
Opoku is also always a school, and as Opoku, as we know, we've had so many contests. This is not the first one, and they've given us a pressure. You know, once a seeded school is always a seeded school. No matter the pressure you would amount on us, we can still do. Because last year, Impress did to us, but we didn't shiver. We know we are the school. And definitely
there's the likes of Prempeh College. They say they're doing a back-to-back this year. And if they also win their contest, you most likely meet them in the semi-finals like you did in the grand finale in 2021. I mean, what's the plan for Prempeh College if you meet them?
Okay, Prempeh College this year, they are no match for us. Yeah, because they came to our home and it's like they were complaining they didn't bring their boys or something, and we gave them a margin. Like, they are no match. I don't see Prempeh as a school or something to come and start. You see, last year it was a mistake. It was a mistake. They had Aiden. Aiden has left. There is no more Aiden. They are talking of something like Ambaya or what. We also have the Romeo, the Newton, the Julius and others. So ours, we are going to win. We will win the regionals this year.
Yes, we live in a multifaceted world where different things happen differently at different times. Yes, but this year we are taking it. It is ours, Opoku School. We are taking it once and forever. Yes, we are.
And still on the National Science and Maths quiz, Konongo Odumasi SHS is on its way into the semi-finals of the APSA Ashanti Regional Championship after pulling an unbelievable comeback to snatch the spot from Bantama Adventist SHS. Now they've been speaking to my colleague Manuel Cranting.
A great comeback! A great comeback!
What happened?
Oh, round one, joining round one. I don't know what happened, but because we are with God, all things are possible.
Because you know something, it is not our first time. Yes. We always know. Yes. This place is our school. Yes. We always come here to win. Yes. No one, no bagawaya, no bagawaya.
That if you put up this performance against schools like Prempeh and Opoku, they're going to deal with you.
If Prempeh is Prempeh, then great course is also great course. And we are indeed great. Yes. No bagawaya. The boys
S equals to S. So the equation is balanced. If Prempeh is Prempeh, we are also great course. Yes. If they believe in themselves, we also believe in ourselves. Yes. Simple.
But talk to me about the comeback. What was the secret of this comeback?
Do you know something? That guy is called Bouncer. Yes. Indeed, he's a bouncer. Yes. Indeed, he's a bouncer. Indeed, he's a bouncer. Indeed.
You are on stage. I mean, by the end of the third round, you were trailing by 10 points. I mean, it will be very difficult for any school to come back from 10 points down to come up with a point.
Well, all we will say is that everything that we have done, we owe it to God. We knew that things were getting difficult, but we knew that since we came with God, everything was going to be successful. So we didn't lose hope. We were still on the edge that definitely the contest will be ours, and definitely it was.
I mean, there's this lady at the back that I spoke to last year. I want to speak to her too. You can just get. Last year you told me about your performance and the fact that if you meet Prempeh, you're going to deal with them, and eventually Prempeh won it. This year, Prempeh said they're going to repeat what they did last year. What are you saying?
Last year wasn't our year, but this year, with God on our side, I hope we can.
Even today, you almost went out. Today you almost...
We did miracle things at the end. Under 1 minute. And then we changed everything. So I mean, God is by us.
We wanted them to answer simple questions so that we answer the difficult ones.
Yes. We are like Real Madrid. You see, during Real Madrid's match, 90 minutes time, they weren't able to, equalize or score match goals, but to qualify good. But less than 2 minutes.
Yes. Oh my God!
In less than 2 minutes, they were able to qualify for the finals.
Yes.
And now Bishop Herman College has been crowned champions of the Volta and OT regions after beating Maoli School and Sunrise SHS at the finale of the APSA Science and Maths Quiz Championship. Although the quiz auditorium was filled with the entire student population of the host institution, Maoli School, the Behekans remained unstoppable.
Herman College, the new champions of the Volta OT region. It is the APSA NSMQ Championship, and they've won the trophy for the first time. It wasn't like this for them last year when they took part in the competition. It was all tears for them. Today, they are celebrating, and they are the champions of the Volta and OT regions. At the end of the contest, it was Bishop Herman College, 51 points. The second school, Sunrise Senior High School, they had 46 points. How good as the headmaster for Bishop Herman College? Let's speak to the headmaster.
Well, this is something we are proud of, because for some time now we've been trying to come into the limelight, and God willing, this year we are crowned the regional champions. We are carrying this feat to the next stage, which is the national championship. This is just the beginning. We will hit the ground running and then make sure that we excel in the national contest.
So present at this school, if I tell me what have you, prepare for us. You're already equipped and important.
Contestants, tell me, what is the feeling like? Last year wasn't like this, right?
Yeah, last year we lost at the first contest to the regional championship, and then I felt very bad, and then this year I knew we'll bounce back, and then I'm sending a message out to our school. We've not seen that before, and then I'm telling them, I'm assuring the whole Ghana that we are going to make a mark this year, NSMQ. We are going to leave a mark.
Let's speak to all students. All students.
So it means a lot to us. You know, Bishop Herman is a big school. It's a big school. But for this particular competition, we've not been living up to expectations. So it's indeed a big win for us.
So this year we are coming to prepare for us. We are coming on the bigger stage.
Let's speak to organizers of the Volta OT APSA NSMQ Zonal Championship. I have with me here Mr. Samuel Ajo. He works with Prime Time.
I must say that right from the word go, I kept saying that when I compare this year's performance from the schools in the Volta and OT zones, as against their performance in the previous years, this year has been quite interesting. I must say it's been quite solid. When you look at the kind of points that they amassed throughout the qualifiers onto the go to the zonal championship. I'm impressed with the performance at the APSA Volta and OT zonal championship. Yes, I want to thank you first of all. I want to thank GES, our main sponsor for the National Science and Maths Quiz, and then APSA Bank. Because without their support, I'm not sure we were to bring this championship to you. APSA Bank have been so instrumental in bringing the zonal championship to the schools in this part of the region. And so a big thank you to APSA Bank, and once again, also I say thank you to JoyNews for the support, and also YFM also for the support. But I say thumbs up to APSA Bank for the support. Yeah.
Joy like a river, joy like a river, joy like a river in my soul. Joy like a river, joy like a river in my soul.
And indeed, we say congratulations to the soldiers of Christ. This is The Pulse. We'll return shortly after this break. And that's all we have for you in this package of The Pulse. I am Blessed Sogah. Log on to myjoyonline.com. We have updates for you there. Next.